More than 45 years after all the screaming mobs and strobing lights, Gene Simmons has remained at the vortex of one of the loudest rock legacies. With 30-plus million fans packing arenas and 100-plus million records sold, Kiss created something more than music, an authentic, electrifying bond between band and fan. Theirs is the tale of fire, glory, and wrath. But behind the black and white coloring and the pyrotechnics is a man whose life is even more larger than life than his stage personality, a man born out of adversity, fueled by ambition and formed by scandal. Gene Simmons has never been smaller than life. From fire-breathing in front of oceans of fans to spewing jaw-dropping quotations in interviews, he became the ultimate rock excess icon, brash, loud, and impossible to ignore. But success, such as his, always has a price tag. For every success headline, another one of scandal was splashed on the front pages. And now, when there are few legends that shine as vividly, something new has emerged, something that's taking the internet by storm and making the world revisit the man in the mask. Born of struggle, Gene Simmons' life started far from the fame of Los Angeles or Madison Square Garden stages. He was born Heimwitz on August 25, 1949, in Haifa, Israel, a survivor's child. His mother, Flora Kovacs, had endured hell. Born in a little Hungarian village, she was taken prisoner in the Holocaust and sent to concentration camps, such as Ravensbrück, where she was exposed to unimaginable atrocities. Of her whole family, only her brother and she remained alive. She became broken but unyielding, the sort of woman who would start again from dust. His father, Ferenc Witz, was a carpenter, unassuming, diligent but aloof. They constructed what little home they could in newly formed Israel together. The family was very Jewish based on faith and tradition, but was very poor. Gene would later remember being dirt poor, surviving on bread and milk rations, and selling roadside wild fruit at age 7 to assist his mother. His parents divorced when he was 8. His mother took the impossible decision to leave all she had and find a new life in America. She brought young Haim with her, abandoning his father in Israel with his new wife. America was a shock, noisy, alien, and full of opportunities. They settled in Queens, and Haim became Gene Klein, taking his mother's new family name. He experimented with a yeshiva, an ultra-conservative religious academy, but quickly moved to public school where he studied English and started to find his voice. He went to Newtown High, then attended Sullivan County Community College and Richmond College, where he received his degree in education in 1970. For a brief period, he even taught 6th grade on the Upper West Side, a gentle young man standing in front of a classroom, with no idea that fate was lurking around the next corner, wielding a bass guitar and a bucket of flames. Before fame and the stage, Gene held together a patchwork of odd jobs. His speed on the keys landed him a job as a fact-checking assistant to an editor at Vogue, one of the world's most chic fashion magazines. Behind the typewriter, though, his brain was elsewhere. He had already glimpsed what would change his life forever. The Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. That evening, while 4 young Liverpool men put America in a tizzy, Gene watched glued to the TV. "There's no way I'd be doing what I do now if it weren't for the Beatles," he later stated. "They showed me what was possible." From there on, the classroom disappeared, and the dream of rock dominated. He studied guitar compulsively, playing until his fingers hurt. His first band, Lynx, which was later retitled The Missing Links, offered him his first taste of the stage, but more was wanted. He created the Long Island Sounds, and then the Love Bag, working the gigs while selling used comic books to make ends meet. It wasn't glamorous, but it was authentic. It was music. By the late 1960s, Gene was attending college by day and rock dreamer by night. He played with Bullfrog Beer, then Coffee, then Wicked Lester, a group that looked like it was headed for the top. But something was off about it. The music was too mellow, too bland. With a young guitarist named Stanley Eisen, who would soon become Paul Stanley, Gene walked away from it all, leaving behind their record contract with Epic. Together, they started to dream about something new. Something theatrical, something dangerous, something unforgettable. It happened in 1973. Kiss was born. With Peter Criss on the drums and Ace Frehley on guitar, Gene and Paul created not only a band but an experience. They were thunder gods, fire gods, spectacle gods. Gene became the demon, his character taken from comic book legend and horror movies. The face paint, the boots, the tongue, all of it became legend. Kiss recorded their first album in 1974 and blew into the stratosphere. They weren't merely making records, they were forging mythology. The record-breaking success was unprecedented. The fans were devoted. But fame's cost is always change. In 1983, Kiss pulled off the unthinkable. They shed their makeup. It was blasphemy to some, brilliance to others. Either way, it succeeded. The band was reborn for a new generation, and Gene Simmons, now a household name, was as much a businessman as an artist. From lunchboxes to comic books, pinball machines to action figures, Kiss grew into an international empire. But beneath the marketing acumen and the multi-millions of dollars, cracks developed in marriages, in friendships, and in Gene's own public persona. While the band kept on rocking the stage, Gene's mouth did more talking than his bass guitar. He described himself as brutally frank. Others termed him arrogant, misogynistic, and tone-deaf. His own son, Nick Simmons, once teased that his dad was full of crap, not hate, but recognition of Gene's outrageous personality. Fans enjoyed his bluntness, but it frequently sailed too close to rudeness. In 2002, in an interview with NPR's Terry Gross, it got nasty. When asked about what he wore on stage, namely the metal codpiece, Gene snickered and said, "It keeps my manhood in. Otherwise, it will be too much for you to handle." After that, he threw in, "If you take me with open arms, you're going to have to take me with open legs." Gross was appalled. The interview was ended. That arrogance never deserted him. In 2017, he attempted to trademark the devil horns salute gesture, a symbol used for years by rock fans. He said he had invented it in 1974, although fans were quick to remind him that John Lennon had given the identical gesture years before. Simmons ultimately abandoned the application, but not the demeanor. "I regret nothing," he stated. Still, sometimes his words cut too deep. In 2016, when asked about depression, Gene made cruel remarks about people suffering from mental illness, even saying, "If you're on a building, jump." Radio stations banned Kiss music in protest. The backlash was fierce. Gene apologized, reluctantly, but the sting remained. Later that year, following Prince's death, his remarks again left the world in shock. While he complimented Prince on his talent, he also decried his death as pathetic and blamed the singer for having killed himself slowly with drugs. Even his longtime fellow bandmate Paul Stanley had to intervene, tweeting that he was embarrassed by Gene's statement. Simmons's brazenness carried over into his attitudes toward women. He frequently boasted about betting thousands, 4,600, 4,800, 4,897, as the day was. On his reality program Gene Simmons' Family Jewels, he chuckled about keeping track. His approach was usually predatory, and his remarks to female journalists were legendary. He once instructed young men to tell women you find them attractive, and their sisters too. Even his attack on pop artists had a superior tone. He ridiculed female singers such as Rihanna and Madonna, referring to them as karaoke singers. When Madonna performed during the Super Bowl, he jeered, "Shame on you." But as his rhetoric ignited anger, his entrepreneur spirit raked in millions. He merchandised everything from Kiss-themed coffins to packages of concert air, literally nothing within, for $3.99. They sold out. Gene Simmons could sell anything, even himself. Offstage, Gene also acted. From Kiss meets The Phantom of the Park in 1978 through appearances in Runaway and Wanted, Dead or Alive, he developed a second career on the screen. Later, he started Erebus Pictures and co-started Simmons Hamilton Productions with the goal of making 25 films in 5 years. He was a judge on a Japanese TV show, Yashiki Superstar Project X, and continued to reinvent himself decade by decade. But no matter how far he traveled, the controversies trailed behind. His remarks on Islam during a 2004 radio interview labeling it a vile culture provoked international outrage. Later, he asserted he had been pointing an angry finger at extremists, but the damage was done. He'd offended millions. In 2016, he directed his ire at rap music, stating, "Rap will die soon. I look forward to the day music comes back to melody." His critics accused him of racism and of being out of touch. Gene didn't waver. His personal life also made headlines, particularly after an intimate video with long-term partner Shannon Tweed was leaked. Gene moved quickly to have it stifled legally, reminding the world that beneath all the bluster lay a man who was still attempting to control his image. Even his TV appearances in recent years have not gone unscathed. In 2024, as a guest judge on Dancing with the Stars, Simmons made improper comments about female competitors, remarking on their appearance rather than their dancing. Fans were appalled, calling him creepy and insisting that ABC apologize. Within a week, he was off the show. Nevertheless, for all his blunders, Gene Simmons is indomitable. He claims to be a teller of truth in a world of pretenders. Critics regard him as an opportunistic phony who covers behind the guise of candor. But one thing is true. He amassed a fortune from scratch, a poor immigrant kid turned fire-breathing rock god with both base and brand in dominion unchallenged. His mother, the survivor who brought him up on her own, lived to see her boy become a millionaire many times over. When she died, Gene said her strength was the backbone of his life. "Everything that I am, everything that I have, came from her courage," he said. Gene Simmons continues to tour, continue to sell, continue to incense. He's a throwback to a louder, less censored time, an era when rock deities held court and the opinions of the public couldn't muzzle them overnight. Love him or hate him, there's no disputing his influence. For 45 years, Gene Simmons has lived in a world of his own making, one where the line between performance and reality is forever blurred. The makeup may wash off, but the legend never fades. He is the child of a survivor, the student who became a teacher, the teacher who became a rock god, and the rock god who became a lightning rod for controversy. Every headline, every outrage, every dollar made or fan lost, it all equates to a life lived loudly and unapologetically. And while the world continues to argue about whether Gene Simmons is a genius or an idiot, one thing holds true. He doesn't care. He never did. The demon doesn't seek forgiveness. He demands fire. So, has Gene Simmons finally crossed a line, or was he always the same man, speaking his truth no matter what the price? Whatever you think, his tale is one of the most unbelievable in rock and roll history, a testament to how fame, like fire, illuminates the stage and incinerates everything it comes near.